What's the smallest thing that you can do to work towards your goal? Because this really does eliminate the all or nothing mentality that a lot of us have, me, hand up in particular. Welcome to the Redefining Midlife podcast. I'm Jo Clark and I'm so glad you're here. And this is a podcast for women who are ready to break free from outdated stereotypes, rediscover themselves, and embrace the endless opportunities that midlife brings. Each week, I'll share expert advice, actionable strategies, and inspiring conversations with incredible women who are redefining what it means to thrive in midlife and beyond. From health and wellness to reigniting your purpose and passions, this is your go-to podcast for feeling empowered, supported, and seen. And midlife isn't the end. It's your time to shine, rewrite your story, and create a life that you truly love. So let's get started. Welcome to episode 123 of the Redefining Midlife podcast. Now, today, I'm going to be sharing 3 easy steps to help you reach your health and wellness goals. Now, have you ever heard that powerful quote? A healthy person has 1,000 wishes. A sick person has just one. It really makes you think, doesn't it? Because I'm sure you know that when your health is in a good place, your dreams and your possibilities feel endless. Life continues on well without many cares, except for the everyday ones, of course. But when you're unwell, everything else fades into the background. And as you get older, there's no doubt that our health is more front of mind. Our health needs are changing for sure. Those extra little aches and pains we have, the sleepless nights or the extra kilos, we just have to keep on adjusting and tweaking our goals to cater for the changes in our life and in our bodies. And we sure as hell don't want to wait for an unwanted health diagnosis to galvanize us into action. And so that's why in today's episode, I really want to share 3 easy steps to help you set and actually achieve your wellness goals. Now, these are simple, practical steps that research has shown will work, even if you have struggled in the past. So grab a pen and paper, because I'm also going to challenge you to take action after listening. Because let's be honest, knowledge is only powerful if you do something with it. Now, we know January is always a busy month, and that's why having an episode like this at the start of February is a really good idea. Because in January, there are interruptions to our routines. There's lots of social events. We've got kids going back to school. If you've still got school-age kids, you've got work ramping up, and life is just getting in the way. So it's no surprise that over 80% of New Year's resolutions fail. People start with the best of intentions, but without the right approach, they lose momentum quickly. And this also happens because most people don't have a clear plan. They rely way too much on motivation and they don't set themselves up for success. Now, I know this struggle firsthand. I totally get it because for years, I could never create lasting health goals. I'd always start the year strong and then I'd stop, repeating the cycle over and over again. And most often, it was an all or nothing attitude I had. So if I knew that I couldn't do something well from the get-go, or if there was an interruption, like I said in January, there's plenty of them, there was an interruption to that routine that I'd created, then I'd give up entirely, or I'd just go back to the goal in fits and starts. And if I think back to my 40s and very early 50s, life was incredibly busy. I had work, family, traveling to visit my sick mum, maintaining my home and garden. All of these took up my time and my energy. And then whatever was left, I put towards myself, if I had the energy, that is. And my wellness was pretty much always last on the list. I was overworked, overwhelmed, and overstressed. And my diet was pretty good most of the time, I must admit that. And I tried to exercise at least 3 times a week. But I slept poorly because of all of the frequent night sweats. And then I had, as I said before, there was stress from work, children away at boarding school, dealing with grief. And so all that little time for myself added up. Now, this is a story that I'm sure is very familiar to many of you who are listening. But I also want to say that my life wasn't all doom and gloom. It was good, but it wasn't great. And who wants to settle just for good when you can have great? And there's no doubt in my mind that it could have been way better if I'd just taken charge of my health and wellness. Then everything changed when I was diagnosed with osteopenia, which is a precursor to osteoporosis. And I realized that if I didn't do something, I would soon have full-blown osteoporosis. It runs in my family, and that really scared me because I saw how debilitating this disease was for my darling mum. And I didn't want a future like hers, a future where I'd be in constant pain, that I'd be incredibly limited in what I could do, and be dependent on others for the simplest of tasks as I got older. But unlike my mum and so many women of that generation, I knew that lifestyle changes, particularly in those early stages of bone loss, can reverse, lessen, or improve. And I also knew that no one but me was responsible for my own health. And if I kept on doing what I'd always done, my future was certain. So it was time for me to put the pedal to the metal. So I made that choice. I began learning everything I could about women's health. And that's the thing. We have got so much information out there, information that the women who are older than us never ever had. We've got information on how to prevent the diseases of aging. So I read everything I could with that. I learned everything I could about that. And what really matters for long-term wellness, I listened to so many different podcasts. I attended workshops. I did what I could. I learned all about how to create lasting habits that actually stick. And then, most importantly, after all of that learning, I put it into practice. And more recently, since I was so keen to share this knowledge with other women and support them to create and implement their own wellness plans with goals that are actually attainable, that you can actually make sure that you get some progress, I created the Better Than Before online membership. It's also one of the main reasons I created this very podcast. And over the past 2 years, I've interviewed and had conversations with top experts and researchers in women's health. They all say the same thing. What we do today impacts our future health. And two interviews that I've had with experts on this topic really stick in my mind. The first one is with longevity expert Dr. Karen Coates, and I shared that in episode 82. And Dr. Karen said, the good news about the research that's going on in this area, which is the area of epigenetics, is that even though the genes that we inherited from mum and dad are set in concrete at the moment of our conception and they can't be changed, this new science of epigenetics tells us that those genes come with an on switch and an off switch and a volume control. And it's up to us to work out what lifestyle choices, what food we need to eat in order to keep healthy pathways turned on and their efficiency turned up as high as we can manage. So I already knew about epigenetics, but when she said that again, it really highlighted the fact that we actually can do so much for our own health. And then again, in episode 94, I had Professor Cassandra Zerke. Now, Professor Cassandra Zerke is a world-leading clinical researcher, scientist, and an expert in women's health. And she shared that 80% of people over the age of 50 have got 2 or more chronic diseases at the same time. But the good news is that the World Health Organization, the WHO, estimates that 80% of these diseases are actually preventable. So what we do in our midlife and beyond plays a huge role in shaping our future health and happiness. And again, that's a really empowering message. So if we want to age well, then being healthy and well can't be ignored. We can't bury our head in the sand any longer. But the issue is, how do we start and how do we keep going? So I want to ask you now, what is your goal process? Do you just think about your goals and then work on them? That was me for a long time. Do you write them down? Do you share them with anybody? And do you get support? Now, you might do one of those things, you might do some of those things, or perhaps you do all of those things. And this is where it gets super interesting, and this is why I want to share the information that I have for you today. There has been so much research on goal setting over the recent years, So here are 3 easy steps that are just going to make a huge difference to you achieving your wellness goals. And in fact, actually any other goal that you set for yourself in life. There's this great study by Gail Matthews at the Dominican University, and she placed a large group of 267 people into 5 different groups. The first group just thought about their goal. The second group wrote their goal down, and the third group came up with action steps that they could take. And the fourth group did all of that, plus told a friend what their goals were. And the fifth group did all of that, but they also reported in once a week to share the progress they were making with their goals. Now, what is really fascinating is that the group of people who just thought about their goals and had the actual lowest success rate, and that success rate was just 43%. That's not very high. Those who wrote down their goals were 13% more likely to achieve them than the first group. So now that's up to 56%. Now, if they shared it with a friend, that success rate went up to 64%. But the best results came from those who not only wrote their goals, put them into steps, shared them with somebody, they also committed them to action and had accountability. Now, they achieved 76% more than those who didn't. So this study backs up what we do inside my Better Than Before membership, because one of the things that I do teach, and that's really critical to success, is that not only do we write our goals down and use a SMART goal framework to make them specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, we also share our goals and we check in to stay accountable. Because having that extra layer of sharing and accountability makes a huge difference. So let's go through how that might look for you. Step 1, write it down. Goals that are written down are far more likely to be achieved, as we heard from that research study. But the key is also to be specific and clear. So for example, you might say, I will spend 30 minutes strength training every Tuesday and Friday morning before breakfast. That's a great example of a really specific and clear goal using the SMART goals framework. Another one might be, I'll go to bed before 9:30 p.m. every weeknight. There's another one. Also in the membership, we use some visioning exercises where we ask, what would life feel like if you achieve the goal? What would change? How would you move, think, and live differently? This really helps to make the goals feel real and motivating. So perhaps you could try that as well when you're doing this first step. Action step for you. Don't just think about your goal, write it down using the SMART framework I mentioned. And as I said before, if you want that extra little bonus, start to think about visioning exercises that would really help you to see that it's happening. Now, in step number 2, it's all about committing to action. You need to plan for how you're going to achieve your goal. So you need to break your big goal down into small, achievable steps. You also need to get prepared, get organised, buy in equipment or resources or ingredients that you might need. And also start to think about the barriers that might come up, like what could actually throw you off track. How are you going to handle the challenges that are inevitably going to pop up? Challenges like, we've got holidays, public holidays, longer holidays, any illnesses that we can't account for that will happen throughout the year, or maybe different changes in routine. Maybe you've got people staying with you. Maybe you're going traveling somewhere. What are you going to do when you've got these different challenges? Also think about creating what I call minimums and maximums. So that is, what's the smallest thing that you can do to work towards your goal? Because this really does eliminate the all or nothing mentality that a lot of us have, me, hand up in particular. It's what I used to have. It's true that a small step towards your goal is still that step forward, and it beats doing nothing, beats it hands down, because those small steps actually add up. And inside my membership, we pre-plan for all of these different situations. So, that might mean deciding ahead of time what adjustments you'll make when life will get in that way. And in fact, we've just crafted in the membership our own wellness plan for the year ahead using my ultimate wellness planner. So every single member in the membership has got a clear plan to follow for the year ahead. It's almost like a roadmap that they can follow. They're prepared for the good days and the not so good days. So what can you do? Here's your action step. I'd like you to break down your goal that you've thought about and write it down into the small steps that you're going to take towards achieving that goal. And if you want to go that extra mile, start to decide on any adjustments that you might need to make to the plan of the goal that you're putting together. Now, the final step is all about getting accountability, because having a support system will make you significantly more likely to succeed. Just knowing that you're going to be reporting your results to someone else can be enough just to get you motivated. And again, I created Better Than Before membership, or BTB, to help other women actually design and implement their wellness plans so that they can lead these healthy lives. And it's why we have these monthly check-ins, group coaching calls, and a private space where members can share their progress and challenges. So for you, in action step number 3, I encourage you to find an accountability partner or join a supportive community. And an extra little tip, it really is best if you can find someone who's committed to achieving their own goals so that you can hold each other accountable. That's pretty important. Now, no matter where you are on your wellness journey, there is always an opportunity to be healthier. So if health and wellness is a priority for you, or you want to get that extra support to help you get started and keep going, then I really would love to invite you to join Better Than Before. It's affordable at only $40 a month or $400 a year, and you can join any time of the year. So if BTB sounds like it's the right next step for you, then just head over to joeclarkcoaching.com/better, because we'd really love to welcome and support you. So those 3 steps again, those 3 easy steps that you can take to actually help you reach your health and wellness goals are, let's think about number 1, write it down. Don't just think about it, put pen to paper. And then number 2, commit to action. And the final step, step number 3, is to get accountability. In wrapping up, I hope today's episode has helped you, because now it's your turn. I want you to think about what you're going to do to put something into action. What's your action step going to be? And I'd really love to hear from you. And you can send me an email or a message, or even message me on Instagram, because I love getting messages from people. But until then, take care and remember, your health matters because you matter. Thanks so much for spending your time with me today. I hope you feel inspired to make the next chapter of your life the best one yet. And remember to share this episode with someone else who would love it, and connect with me on Instagram or LinkedIn at Jo Clark Coaching. All the links and the details from today's episode are in the show notes or at joeclarkcoaching.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please follow or subscribe this show on your favorite podcast app and leave a 5-star rating and review. This helps more midlife women find these empowering conversations. I can't wait to chat with you next week. Until then, take care and keep creating a life that you love.